Hello and welcome to the Waterfront Walking Virtual Tour. My name is Stephanie Lile, the Executive Director of the Harbor History Museum and one of your guides today. The museum, Downtown Waterfront Alliance, and Harbor Wild Watch are the three organizations that have partnered to bring you our award-winning waterfront walking tours for the past 6 years. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's tours are being brought to you virtually via Facebook and YouTube. We want to begin this tour by acknowledging that we stand on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people. It is the oldest occupied site in Gig Harbor. And while we are history enthusiasts with a special interest in Gig Harbor, we really want to recognize that it is impossible to cover everything in this tour, and we want you to feel free to share your knowledge and stories with us in the comments section. You are also welcome to ask us questions, and we will do our best to answer them.
Hi, my name's Leann O'Neill, and I'm a volunteer here with the Harbor History Museum and one of your guides today. I greet you with the traditional Coast Salish word tokite, which means nice day, pretty colors, and welcome. Now, as this tour suggests, we will be talking about skiffs, encompassing the information about our maritime heritage and boats in general, and spirits, some of the more colorful stories about Gig Harbor before and after Prohibition, which was the time period from 1920 to 1933. It is also our hope that you will see the spirits of adventure, commitment, and courage that were embodied first by the Native American people and then the early citizens of Gig Harbor. And it's also fun to note that water flows through both of these themes. Navigating water made the need for skiffs, but it also plays a role in how spirits are made. And hopefully you will see on this tour how skiffs and spirits played a vital role in shaping the people and industries of our waterfront community, and how all of that has changed over time.
Since this is the first stop on the Skiffs to Spirits tour, let's set the stage. We must first remember that long before the European settlers came, the area was inhabited by Native American tribes which had a reverent and symbolic relationship with the land and water. This tour focuses on the historical industries and social life during the time period between the late 1800s and early 1900s, and what this area looked like at a time when Gig Harbor was becoming a popular place for Croatians, Scandinavians, Germans, Italians, English, and others, many others, to settle. Let's start our tour by talking about this building, the Harbor History Museum. The Gig Harbor Peninsula Historical Society has been around for more than 50 years, but this building opened in 2010. Part of the building is new, and part of it is a renovated warehouse, which can account for some strange occurrences. The museum showcases the area's history in both a permanent exhibition and special exhibitions that we have inside the building. Right now we're in an outside exhibit featuring the Emerson and the Porpoise. But we feature two very large artifacts, and one of them is the Shenandoah, which is right here in our Maritime Gallery. The Shenandoah was built in 1925 at the Skansi shipyard for Pasco Dorotich. Dorotich had emigrated from Croatia, first to Canada, and then came here to Gig Harbor with his family. And the boat was built in 1925 for him and his son John, and his new son-in-law, Nick Bez, who became a very wealthy and well-known cannery operator. The other large vessel that we have in the collection is the Thunderbird, hull number 1. It was built in 1958 as part of a contest by the Douglas Fir Plywood Association, and they wanted a designer and a boat builder to work together to come up with a design for a day sailor that could also be raced. Hence the Thunderbird was born, and now we have Thunderbirds all around the world. So the third boat that I'd like to talk about is the Porpoise, and the Porpoise is a gig from the larger vessel Porpoise that was used in the United States exploring expedition in 1841. This is a survey vessel, and this would have been carried on the deck of the larger vessel. This is literally the boat that gave Gig Harbor its name. As a gig, or a captain's gig, or a jolly boat, or a long boat, were all the names for it, this was the only vessel that could actually fit in the mouth of Gig Harbor. So the surveyors would take these small boats out from the larger boats, and they would survey the shoreline of all throughout the Puget Sound. And really it was Sinclair and Sanford who were surveying, and they found the mouth of Gig Harbor protected by the sand spit that we know today, and came in through this small gig. And then they documented this harbor by the name Gig Harbor on their actual survey charts. So that's how Gig Harbor got its name, literally from this boat.
Our second large artifact is the Midway Schoolhouse, and I have to tell you, it's my favorite part of the whole museum. It was originally built in 1893 on land that was donated by the Dow family on a square acre of land located at the present-day intersection of Murphy Drive and 38th Avenue Northwest. Now, the only stipulation on the donation was that the land would have to be returned to the family if the school ever closed. A community member named J.J. Moore began building the structure in June of that year, and he actually completed it in August for a total cost of $135. The school opened that fall of 1893 with 15 students and one teacher who earned a monthly salary of $21.90. Now, the school operated for the first 21 years, being known as District 79. Then in 1914, a naming contest was held, and the school children chose the name Midway to reflect the school's actual location between Midway of Gig Harbor and Willachet Bay. In 1941, the Midway School District merged with the other districts to form what we have today, Peninsula School District number 401. The schoolhouse and the land then reverted back to the Dow family, and soon after, the property and the schoolhouse were sold to the Murphy family. And their children included Charles, Loretta, and Alice. They actually went to school in the Midway School. The abandoned schoolhouse was used for storage and a workshop by Pat Doyle, who was Alice Murphy's husband. And although the building incurred a little bit of vandalism and some deterioration just with time, it actually was fairly well preserved. So in 2004, Alice Murphy Doyle gave the schoolhouse to the Harbor History Museum in the hopes that one day children's voices would again be heard in the schoolhouse. On April 18, 2009, the schoolhouse was actually moved from its original location to right here on this spot at the museum. And the Morning Rotary Club of Gig Harbor did the restoration work. With the building, we acquired actually a treasure trove of artifacts that came with it. And we actually have on display in the schoolhouse the original teacher's desk, a student desk up in the front of the room, the piano, the Victrola, and the old wood stove. Now, the donation of the building gave us a unique opportunity here at the museum to create a living history experience for local school children, and we've called it the Pioneer School Experience. This includes guided tours of the museum, and it also then includes a period-correct person who is either a school marm or schoolmaster, and we take the children through a traditional 1915 school day with slates and chalk and McGuffey readers. So in this way, we have really honored Alice Murphy Doyle's wish to have children once again in the schoolhouse. And to date, we have served almost 13,000 students. That's it for our tour today. Thanks so much for joining Stephanie and me on our first stop of the Skiffs to Spirits tour. And we hope you'll tell your family, friends, or anyone that's thinking about visiting Gig Harbor that they can watch these videos to learn a little more about our beautiful waterfront and how we are all, past and present, tied to the water.